Then I'm going to cross fiber, again looking for mini zones. Get the biggest mini zone, the biggest subo in the biggest mini zone, and treat. Joint rotations are not about stretching. That's a separate issue to increase range of motion, to reduce injury. But in the treatment, we do rotations to literally find mini zones faster. Okay, so I find a restriction as I come across. I use a clock face, like if you turn your watch up. Okay, so noon is straight up, 6 is straight down, 3 and 9. On this rotation, it's right about 1 o'clock that I feel the restriction. So if this is noon, then 1 o'clock is approximately here. I bring both hands over. In Shiatsu, you always cross fiber big to small. Okay, don't assume that you can get it precisely just by sticking your finger down. Cross fiber big. I find the imbalance there, yes. And then I find the biggest subo in it. Then, like anywhere else, I'm going to rotate, find the most sensitive angle, shift my position so that I'm in comfortable seated archer stance. Heel to toe, weight balanced, no tension. Basically, you know you're in good position if you feel comfortable enough to stay there all day. If you feel any motivation to shift, okay, you're in bad position and you need to move now. Not wait till you get tired and start to have problems. After I feel the subo open, I double check my rotation. It feels much smoother. I can ask her, okay, does that feel more comfortable to you? Okay. So you get feedback that you've done well in taking the pressure off the joint. The rotation helps get me to the deep rotational part, but I'm still going to cross fiber the entire joint and look for mini zones and that are going to be a little farther away from the joint. Like I find this here. Okay. Now, a zone is major joint to major joint, one aspect. So from the shoulder to the elbow, the posterior aspect, from the shoulder to the elbow, the anterior aspect, are two different zones. So the zone, because we go down the back, the zone direction is going to be from distal to proximal, okay, toward the trunk. So I'm going to cross fiber that aspect. Okay, I have a mini zone here. I have a mini zone here. Now, when you practice, you can get to where you work with two hands. The way you work with two hands is to find the mini zone, cross fiber it, find the biggest point, rotate to get the best angle, come to my pressure, and then shift my position so that I'm then comfortable enough to work with the opposing hand to get the second largest mini zone. Then I cross fiber it, all the while maintaining on the first, find the biggest subo, rotate. See here, if the vector comes back towards me, that's a perfect place to use supporter finger. So I now have one vector going away from me, and I have one vector coming back towards me, and yet I'm comfortable and relaxed. I'm not in any awkward position that's going to end up injuring me, either today or years from now. Our point is, if you use no forearm tension and use the best position possible, then you'll still be in business 20 years from now. Your average massage therapist in the United States, 87% are out of the business after 2 years. Okay? That's for three basic reasons that I found, is that they don't learn how to work on difficult injuries and cases, they injure themselves, and they don't learn how to run their clinics and practices as a business. So one of the number 2 reason is they injure themselves. So that's one thing you need to be concerned of right away. You need your training to be professional, and then you need to do it without hurting yourself. You need to help them and not injure yourself. Okay. Now, after those both open, I cross fiber. That feels much smoother. Okay. So now I'm going to move on and I'm going to check the glenohumeral joint. Okay. So I rotated previously to get the AC joint. my rotation for the glenohumeral joint is going to be 45 degrees from her body, 45 degrees from the table. Okay? I'm going to use reverse archer stance, and I'm going to check. I'm going to put 2 fingers on either side of her joint, of the wrist joint. Okay? But I'm not testing the wrist joint yet. But what I am testing is the shoulder joint, the glenohumeral joint. So I apply just a reasonable traction, which is going to be between a 3 and a 5 pressure. And I'm going to rotate. All joint rotations are 3 circles each direction, keeping the palm of her hand the entire time parallel to the coronal plane. Don't wag, because that changes the pressure on the joint. I need to feel, as it moves through, any imbalance on the joints. So 3 circles each direction and 3 infinity signs. Chinese medicine, 3 by 3. So as I came around, again, I'm going to check the joint. So the AC joint was here. The glenohumeral joint is just inferior to that. As I came around the rotation, I felt something about 3 o'clock. Now, with the female, to make room to make sure you stay away from her chest, then you can move the arm. Okay? So then I can get to the 3 o'clock position on her glenohumeral joint, cross fiber, find the biggest subo, rotate, get my best angle, then until I feel the subo open. This can be up to 45 seconds. Okay. Then I'm going to cross fiber the forearm after I rotate the elbow. The elbow rotation is I'm going to place 2 fingers on either side. And my hand on her wrist is not an active hand. It just maintains the wrist in position. My active hand is the hand rotating the elbow. So I rotate the elbow, 3 circles each direction, and the 3 infinity signs. Okay? And this time I found that about 5 o'clock, again, noon is up, down, 3 o'clock, so about 5 o'clock. So I can reach underneath, or I can turn her arm over. I often have to remind students that arms and legs of your clients move. Because they'll put them down and they'll be afraid to shift or move anything. You can turn her arm over, cross fiber, find the subo, rotate, get the proper vector, increase pressure until I feel that close at the bottom of the en bloc subo, maintain until it opens. After I've released the pressure on the elbow, now there may be more than one, in this case there's one major one, then I'm going to come by, shift my chair, and cross fiber the forearm. Again, one aspect, major joint to major joint, so elbow to wrist. The posterior aspect of the arm are the extensors. Okay. The anterior side of the arm are the flexors. The radius and the ulna, the 2 bones in the forearm, are the only 2 bones in the body that cross and uncross when you pronate and supinate. So there's a huge amount of movement at the joints. So you want to be very thorough. Okay. And another way to cross fiber is to use my knife edge again of my thumb or number 1 digit. So I can do it supported finger. I can do it fingers next to each other, or I can do it with the knife edge of my thumb. Okay, I find the mini zone here. I've got a 1 by 3 here, and close to the wrist, I've got a 1 by 2. So I work on the bigger one first, cross fiber, find the biggest subo, rotate, find the best angle, shift my position so I'm always relaxed and comfortable in my seated archer stance. Increase pressure by lifting and dropping my elbow. Then I can cross fiber and work on the other mini zone, doing the same issue. Now, sometimes when I get in a compromise with my second mini zone, when I come to the correct vector, shift your chair.